Well, David, thank you very much for that warm and very kind introduction. And it is a real delight to be able to join you here this morning to what obviously is a very sought-after ticketed event, because there is standing room only at the back. So I think that demonstrates the real interest, not only in this particular project, but also what more we can do to help the types of families and mothers and children that you've just seen in that very powerful video. And having personally signed off 53 of these innovation programme bids, I can tell you that it is a real highlight of the job that I'm still lucky to have, to put some faces to what were very impressive applications. And one of those people, of course, is Sophie Humphreys. Now, you may not know this, but Sophie has had quite a career leap from Hollywood to Hackney. And for the dozens of women and families that Pause has helped, I'm sure that they'll agree that she's made the right choice in Hackney. Because without the tireless work of those Pause practitioners, especially those who are working on the ground, turning lives around, we wouldn't be here celebrating the national launch of Pause. And even today, Pause has brought together a roll call of some of the brightest and some of the most distinguished voices in children's services, who you'll get an opportunity to hear from when I've finished. And I'm sure, and I not only for myself but for you too, this will be an event that will be insightful, but also give you pause for thought about how you go about your day-to-day business and what improvements you can make to your own service delivery. Now, I actually received a preview of the film you've just watched earlier in the week, and like David, I think I can agree it's been brilliantly made, which, given the creators, I suspect, is no great surprise. But what is really important about it is it demonstrates that the work that is being given by a platform like this shows everyone the small glimmers of hope that Pause brings to these women's lives that otherwise would remain in the dark. And watching it did actually bring back some of those memories of being a family law barrister up in the northwest for the best part of a decade. And one of the abiding memories is time and time again going to court, spending many hours with whether it's the parents, the guardian, the social workers, with other lawyers, but you still see the same woman, the same mother in front of you, who'd be fighting to keep her baby or her small child. And more often than not, that child wouldn't be the first or even the second or even the third who would be subject of that court hearing. And in many ways, when you take a step back from it, it's actually quite a gut-wrenching process for everyone who's involved. And it does make you think that perhaps there's a way that we can do this that is better for everybody. And particularly for the child, because otherwise their early life experience will affect them for many, many years to come. So to break that cycle, we needed nothing short of radical change. Radical change brought about by bright ideas, backed by even brighter people. We needed new ways of working in this area, but also that desire to change at the heart of everything that we do. And whilst your bold approach here at Pause might not sit comfortably with everyone, it's exactly the reason we put our faith in you. It's why, just 5 months after extending Hackney and funding 4 new areas, we've already agreed to fund a further 2 in Islington and Greenwich. I also know that the Chief Social Worker for Children, Isabel Trowler, recently visited the Doncaster Children's Services Trust, so she could see firsthand how several exciting innovation projects are progressing, and she met with the Pause project leader there and was very encouraged to see for herself just how well the expansion is going. And Hackney and Greenwich will also work with women who've only had 1 child removed, stopping that cycle of loss, despair, and often false hope before it goes around for another 1, 2, 3 or 4 times. And in doing so, it fulfills the core ambition we set up for the innovation programme, which was to spread what works and, where possible, intervene earlier. But we're not really here to talk about sort of the input of DFE funding. as important as that can be to kickstart some of these projects, that's only really a small sign of success. And the Hackney Star Award for innovation that the project has received is in many ways a far more important symbol of acceptance that this works and many more want to follow. It's an accolade that recognises, yes, your courageousness to go where other services have long avoided, but the real merit lies in both the numbers and the stories that you've just seen. The 29 Hackney women who've engaged with the service, the fact that not one child has been removed from these women in 2 years. And it would be remiss of me to ignore the fact that all of this work over 7 sites is projected to save more than £14 million over 5 years. That's how much we can save when more women get the mental health support they need, when more women are helped with their housing or employment, and when more women discover their full potential free from a chaotic life. So that sort of Groundhog Day of court appearances and care orders, if nothing else, have taught us that it's very difficult to become someone's sort of superhero, to rescue them or run their lives for them. And not only isn't it fair or sustainable, it quite simply doesn't work in that way. Every individual deserves their own autonomous, their own aspirational life, which is what Pause gives women the space to achieve, rather having a life relying on others. It gives them that sense of agency, and as one of the women in the film said, "You help me realise what I need to do." Now, luckily, this isn't a single pocket of innovation. It's a cycle that Judge Nicholas Crichton, who's great to see on the front, who you'll be hearing from later, also recognised. And I know that dealing with the removal, I can't remember if it was the 13th or 14th or 15th child from a mother, was a real turning point for Nick. But rather than accepting it as an unfortunate status quo, he decided to intervene for a child and mother alike. For many families, drugs and alcohol form a familiar part of their narrative. Yet until recently, there was only one specialist family drug and alcohol court across the country. But with Nick's support, the Innovation Board awarded over £3 million to create a National Family Drug and Alcohol Court development unit, testing out the model in different contexts across 11 councils. And it makes sense for these incredibly effective, dedicated courts to branch out and deliver life-changing results in more areas. And the aim will be to create a sustainable long-term funding model for future family drug and alcohol courts. But there's other projects too. Around the country we're seeing PIPs spring up. The Early Intervention Foundation is systematically evidencing what works, and slowly the stigma around mental health is being lifted. And against that backdrop of sort of rethinking our service delivery, it's actually great for me to see so many councils who are here today, and I hope the decision makers amongst you will be inspired to commission similar services, but in particular Pause within your own area. And now you've seen how much of a great effect it can have, I suspect that will only double your determination to do so. Far from a sort of tunnel vision focused on pregnancy and court dates, the work of Pause trickles through to issues of welfare, housing, employment, and improves the most unexpected areas of these women's lives. A problem will never be solved in isolation. We know we can tackle one aspect of someone's life, but if we don't do it with the other parts of their life, it can be work that makes no difference. And it's not just the innovation programme that acknowledges just this. Pause's appearance at the Social Justice Cabinet Committee, where Sophie and I previously crossed paths, says so much about the cross-sectional nature of the service, and that many other departments are looking to your intervention as a solution. Now, there will always, sadly, be some women who aren't able to pause, and some children who are on social services radars even before they're born. For those women, and especially those children, we have made a number of important other changes. The Family Justice Review highlighted how long care cases were taking, an average of over 50 weeks. The public law outline set out a timescale of 26 weeks, and the average is now below 30 weeks. Now that's great progress. And as the Prime Minister outlined in his recent speech, improving the child protection system will form a key focus for the government. Through the new Frontline initiative, the best graduate talent is being trained to intervene quickly and effectively in the lives of families, and hopefully helping hundreds of vulnerable women before they even reach services like PAWS. But as we take this work even further and continue to seek ways to improve the lives of the most vulnerable children and women, we will have so much to learn from each other. I certainly need to learn from you too, because PAWS is at the forefront of something I think quite momentous, and because of that we want to continue to support it in the way that we have to date and make sure that this is a service that becomes the norm rather than the exception. It's already made a profound difference, as we've seen in some lives. That's why we're backing you, and I think now is the time to spread that difference to many, many more. Thank you very much.